You
Well,
too, Blake.
hello everyone, and I want to welcome you back to another live edition of the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner on the new streamingnetwork.com. Of course, I'm your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert, and it's good to welcome you all back with us again tonight. We want to thank the audience for not only those who join us live, but for those who watch the recorded shows, because it's thanks to the audience like you that we were able to make the list of top podcasts to watch here in Northern Virginia. And we are also one of the most searchable podcasts when it comes to some of the veterans topics and veteran information. So we really want to help you or say thank you for making that possible as an audience. Of course, before we get started tonight, I want to just take a moment to thank our sponsors, Nationwide IT Services, NIS. NIS is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business owned by retired Army Warrant Officer C.K. Park. C.K. and his crew have offices all over the United States, and they service both government and private sector businesses and organizations. And whether it's training, IT security, program management, whatever you may need for your business, his folks are there to help you. So give them a call. I also want to thank Hill and Ponton, PA. Hill and Ponton Veterans Disability Attorneys located down in Florida. They've been in business for over 30 years, and their main focus is helping veterans and their families navigate that maze of the VA and help you get those benefits that you've earned that you should have. So if you have an issue or a question like that, reach out to them. They also provide free webinars that you can watch to provide you more information. So check them out. They're there to help you. So before we get started tonight, I do want to give a shout out to Heroes Bridge. Heroes Bridge in Warrenton, Virginia is a veteran service organization focusing on veterans from the Vietnam era, but veterans usually 65 and older. They're working on a new village to house homeless veterans there in Warrenton, Virginia. They've also got a number of activities that they help with veterans around the community and all across the nation. We make touch with veterans who are in need, whether they need help, just contact veterans in search of grocery delivery, moving furniture, whatever it is. They partner up and try to help those veterans in need. So check them out, see if you can help them, donate in any way that you can. I also want to give a shout out to Reese Across America. You can see the website, reaseacrossamerica.org/radio. The reason why it says radio is because we have a broadcast agreement with Reese Across America. So every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, you can hear recordings of our show here, broadcasts on their national radio network. You can go to Reese Across America and click on the broadcast icon, or you can go to Reese Across America Radio and you can go to Spotify and iHeartRadio and just simply type in Reese and it will pull it up. So hopefully we'll have some of you catch us there as well. And we're glad to have that opportunity to share that broadcast with them. All right, let's start with tonight and talk about tonight's guest. We're going to welcome back tonight Daniel Kilburn. And Daniel, of course, is an retired Army veteran, retired Army Sergeant First Class. He is also a drill sergeant, spent time at the Army Sergeant Major's Academy, training and writing there in leadership and other preparedness operations. The interesting thing that about Daniel, I think, is that he spent a lot of time in leadership positions. And I think that you'll be able to tell that when we start talking with him. The interesting thing also is that Daniel taught for the American Red Cross. So we want to talk with him tonight. And Daniel, first of all, before we get started, I want to thank you for your service and thank you for taking the time to join us again.
Well, thank you, Paul. I'm real grateful that you've offered me the opportunity to come speak with you. I'm hoping that whatever we talk about is going to lift up people around us.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see, our show covers so many different topics, so many different guests, and it's always great to see the veterans come back on who have transitioned into great careers, and especially, there always seems to be that theme of the veteran who's transitioning careers trying to help others. So, and I know that's what you are working on now with your emergency preparedness and financial preparedness for not only veterans, but people in the community. So, you left the military in 2015 after all those years of service. I wonder if you would take a moment to share with us kind of how you got into this. I understand that you were living in California at the time and experienced an earthquake yourself, and that's what kind of pointed you in the direction that you headed on now.
Well, I ETS'd out of what was then called Fort Ord, California, which is in Monterey. It's no longer there. It's been decommissioned as a military installation. But I stayed in Monterey. It's a beautiful community, a very nice place to be. And over time, I became an all-around cook. And I was working at a private school cooking. It was, I think, what was the date? Remember, it's 3:15. It was the day of the Loma Prieta earthquake. It was 5:03 p.m. I'm walking to the oven with a full tray of halibut steaks, and somebody picks up the building and bounces it off the ground 5 or 10 times. And I've got fish flying everywhere. I'm laying on the floor and I'm looking down the floor, and all I can see is a bunch of other faces looking at me. No feet, just faces. And I'm saying, oh my God, what was that? Was that an earthquake? And of course, the glasses and the plates and the silverware is just all raining on the ground. But after that, I decided I needed to learn a little more about what to do to prepare for them. Now, I'll say that day I was very happy because my wife and my 3-year-old daughter were out of state visiting family. And I was happy because I had no clue what to do. So I started my search, my education on how to become prepared for these type of events.
Yeah, so I know that the military, I know my time in the military, they gave us we always had those safety briefings before the weekend or the long holidays, trying to remind you not to do anything stupid, don't drink and drive, don't set your house on fire. You remember those, I'm sure. But, as far as more in-depth type of safety, I remember through my military career, the only time we really got into that was when we were dealing with specific types of equipment, like, your winter stoves, sometimes around some of the vehicles. But there wasn't that general overall safety message like it seems that you've been hitting on. So I want us to get into that, but I understand that, you kind of also are starting to deal with family and community resilience. So can you share a little bit of that, of what you're doing with the families and how you communicate that with that?
Well, I originally started with the family as my main client.
Yeah.
The reason being is I want our children to be prepared. Because it doesn't matter what happens, mom, dad, doesn't matter what your plan is. If you're not home and nobody else knows about it, you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And if your children are home alone, unless they, heaven forbid, there's a house fire, are they going to know what to do? So that's how I start. When a family hires me to help them put a plan together, we start with house fire prevention, because that's right home. We can bring this right at home real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy to talk about with the kids. It's easy to get everybody involved in developing your plan of action, how to prevent the house fire, and heaven forbid, if one happens, what to do about it. And that gives our children the courage, the leadership, the communication skills. That way, if they have to respond to it by themselves, they already know what to do.
Yeah. So you started, as you say, from the ground up, starting with the families and the kids and doing it. Because I remember my first, how can I say, I want to say when I moved into government quarters on Fort Carson and then Fort Benning, both of those, I had one of those small ladders you would put out your second floor window so that you could escape, out the window. And even though second floor wasn't that high, you still had that small ladder. And I remember taking the time to show my youngest son, who was in the house at the time, of course, just how to use that ladder. So I'm sure those are the type of things that you think about, especially with the kids. So how did the families receive that? That family planning like that. How did it
Well,
go over when you
a
started?
lot of it depends on the parents. I've had some parents who have told me, oh, heaven, no, I can't talk to my child about that. And I says, well, why not? I don't want to upset them. And I can only say,
Yeah,
well, mom, dad, your child, Billy or Betty, are home by themselves and there's a house fire. How upset are they going to be if they don't know what to do? I mean, let's just bring it down to the bottom line
sure.
here. This is Drill Sergeant Dan talking to you here. You're going to upset them worse by not talking to them. And unfortunately, we're in a culture now where a lot of parents don't want to discuss. Well, a lot of people don't want to discuss it. It's not like we're talking about going to Disney World. You know,
Yeah,
we're talking about something we do not want to happen. It's life threatening. It destroys property. People can die. But if we don't talk about it and discuss it and it happens, it'll be life threatening. It'll destroy property and people can die.
people will die. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just that simple. And we can sit here all day and say, it'll never happen to me. I hope it doesn't. I really do hope it doesn't. But
Yeah,
the
oh, no, go ahead.
2,500 people died last year to house fires.
You know,
None of them woke up that morning saying it was going to happen to them. So let's just, put that in your pipe and smoke it because
well,
nobody wants it to happen to them. So let's prepare for it not to happen.
well, I have to say I can completely agree with you because in my career, my second career as a federal employee, I was actually in a training session on the basement floor of one of our agency headquarters. And we walked out in the hallway one day on a break, and the next thing you know, I felt the floor underneath of me start shaking and wobbling. And we had an earthquake not far away. And never expect, first and only one that I've had living around Northern Virginia like that. But you're right. I get up this morning, go to work. Next thing you know, I'm standing there and I feel the floor underneath of me at the basement of that building shaking and shaking my legs. And, of course, we knew just what to do. We all kind of hauled butt out the back door of the basement there and up the little steps outside. But I saw people coming out of there, even though it wasn't a bad earthquake. You're right. I saw people coming out of there. Some of them had to be kind of helped and carried out. They were in hysterics.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. It's better to, I guess, to talk about this ahead of time to get people thinking about it so they're not reacting that way. So I imagine that's part of what you want to do.
Well, as a veteran and a person who served in our nation's military, I do know that majority of the military personnel have a level up, have a little better than most civilians because they've already dealt with what we can briefly call a hostile environment.
Yeah.
And what we do know, especially as an infantryman, it doesn't matter where the hostile environment is, there are certain things we need to continue to do repeatedly. And that's how I do my training. When I'm training somebody, I do what we call the all hazards approach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean we're going to sit down. Well, yeah, actually it does. We're going to sit down and try and figure out all the hazards in your life that we can deal with. But here's the thing to think about that. I started in California for earthquakes. Then I transitioned and relocated to Florida. And then suddenly I'm discovering, God, we got these things called hurricanes every year. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And so first of all, I'm going, oh, I've never had a hurricane before. And then I realized, well, wait, I already know what to do for an earthquake. It hasn't changed. Right. So that's the all hazards approach. The same things you need to deal with the earthquake are the same things you need to deal with the hurricane. Now, there are differences. Earthquakes are stuff falling on our head. Hurricanes, we have wind blowing things around. So we have to look at things differently. But you need food, you need water, you need shelter, and you need sanitation. The basics. Dial them down and you're covered.
Yeah. Not to mention the tornadoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for how many years now?
Oh, well, 89 was when I started. It was
Okay. Yeah.
about 95 when I finally, almost 6 years to gather all the information I needed to put a
Wow.
plan together. Back then, they didn't have information available like you do nowadays. So it took quite a while.
Yeah.
Then, of course, over the years, I continue to learn. I continue to educate myself. I think right now I've got about 29 educational certificates from FEMA, Homeland Security, Center for Disease Control, National Fire Association, and certain subjects of hostile or hazards that we should prepare for. And I keep myself educated on it because it's just like anything. I mean, once you learn how to ride a bike, you usually always will,
Yeah. Yeah.
but your skills degrade over time if you don't keep practicing them.
So, yeah. So, in other words, for about the last 40 years or so.
Yeah, I stay on it, definitely.
Yeah. So, and I know that there's another area that you've kind of moved into more recently, and that's the financial preparedness for veterans and their families. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, during my tenure, when I'm trying to educate families on what they need to do, there has to be an outlay at some point, just basically for your 72 hours of food and water. You have to spend money to do that, right? And I had a lot of people say, well, I don't know, I can't afford that, Daniel. And I look at them and say, well, Bob, Betty, have you ever done it before? No. Well, how do you know you can't afford it? So where I'm going with is we're in a culture nowadays where everything is too expensive and we can't afford it. That's unfortunately part of our culture now. There was a survey done a couple of years ago, and 75% of the people who answered that survey declared themselves financially unstable. Two reasons. One, no disaster money and no retirement income.
Mm.
So that's part of our culture. We're taught to see how much we can save by spending this money on those pair of shoes, that wallet, that purse, that car, that whatever, to make yourself look so good.
Yeah.
But when a disaster happens, it doesn't matter how good you look. If you have no food to eat, no water, you can't go to the bathroom, you're screwed. It's just that simple.
True. Yeah. So you started working with families on financial planning and financial safety.
Yeah, we discovered how we can, let's say we're starting your food process, we can break it down over the course of shopping trips. So instead of having to drop $300 or $400 or $500 now, depending on how big your family is, of course, we can drop $50 this week, $75 next month, a little bit at a time, and it'll all come together, and you will have your food stores put in place. Now I'm going to bring this up now because I teach these people, don't buy this food and expect it to sit on a shelf for 10 years and you're going to go use it. Don't do that. Buy food you eat now. Stuff you already eat that's in a can, pre-prepared, so that way you don't really even need to heat it up. You don't need to cook it, but you're already consuming it in your kitchen now. That way you can keep it rotating. And after a certain point in time, you're no longer spending more money. You're simply going to your mini mart, moving that stuff to your kitchen, and then refilling your mini mart up.
Yeah. I know that you've written a couple of books about some of this, and one of them was Commanding Your Future, the Military Wisdom for Civilian Success, to help answer questions that a lot of the military don't get when they're leaving the service and other things. And I think more recently, Family Urban Disaster Planning as well.
Well, actually, Food Up, Family Urban Disaster Planning, was my first book I wrote.
Oh, okay.
And that was, how long ago? 5 or 6 years, maybe. I was going through a leadership transition course, and we had to do a project. And I said, okay, I'll write a book. And I decided I'd write that book because I've already been studying it. It's not like I had to re-educate myself on it. So I wrote that book, and it's a small, like 70-page book. You can read it in an hour.
Yeah.
It covers food, water, shelter, sanitation, your basics. You put those together and you have a basic plan in place. You're already prepared. Then you have to look at the other stuff around you, what you need to fill the gaps with.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what about your other book, the Commanding the Future? Is that more tied for helping people transition out of the military? And
Exactly. It's more geared for job searching. I think there's 18 chapters in it, and they're they're more like a technical manual. It's not a lot of fluff in it. Here's what you're looking at. Here's what you need to do. Here's some ways to do it. Here's some resources to look at that will help you do it. We're talking about, well, when we're in the military, we have a specific brain frame. Then we get out into the civilian sector, and it doesn't always work quite well because these are different animals, right?
Yeah.
Like I discovered at some point in time that being Drill Sergeant Dan with a lot of people doesn't really work too well, not because I'm trying to hurt them, but because they just don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So that book goes through a lot of scenarios about communication. The majority of them are about communications, how to communicate, how to listen, what to talk about, what not to talk about when you're looking to transition into the job market and different ways to move in the job market. Now, it's also good for people who were never in the military and are going in the job market. I just cover stuff that are generally very important to look at when you're looking at elevating your job status, moving into a market, or even transitioning from one field to another.
Yes, I know that I believe those books are on Amazon, aren't they?
Yes, they're both on Amazon. Absolutely. And
they can also find them on, I know, on your emergencyactionplanning.com website, the www.emergencyactionplanning.com. I think there's some information.
Yeah, there's links that'll basically take you to Amazon. That's the easiest way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take just a short break, Daniel. And when we come back, for our audience out there, we're going to continue our conversation to talk a little bit more about some of what Daniel's doing about fire protection with the holidays coming up. It's a perfect time to talk about some of this. So we'll be right back after we hear from our sponsors.
That'll be great. Thank you.
gave everything you had. You sacrificed your comfort, your peace, and sometimes even your well-being. Over 3 decades, Hill & Ponton has helped to be a guiding light for veterans seeking their rightful disability benefits. When our heroes are in need, we are not just lawyers. We're an ally, a team who understands the struggles you faced. If you're a veteran seeking the benefits you deserve, let us stand with you on this journey, because every battle deserves a hero, and no hero should fight alone.
Welcome to NewStreamingNetwork.com. The future of streaming is here. Looking for bold, diverse, and engaging content? New Streaming Network brings you the best in TV, podcast, and radio, all in one place. From entertainment and lifestyle to business and inspiration, we're streaming what matters most to you anytime, anywhere, on Roku, multiple TV stations, and numerous podcast platforms, and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. Watch, listen, and connect. Join millions already tuning in. Visit NewStreamingNetwork.com. Start streaming today.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. And you've been watching the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And of course, our guest tonight is retired Army NCO Daniel Kilburn, and he's also the founder of Emergency Action Planning, LLC. And we've been talking about some of the things that Daniel's been doing, how he got started, and what he's been doing. But Daniel, the interesting thing when I was looking at your website is that you have some pretty interesting posts up there on subjects of business of disaster, one called Prepared, Not Paranoid. And you've got a lot of these webinars up there. And I know recently October was General Fire Safety Month, I think it was.
Yes,
And
absolutely right.
yeah, so you had some webinar series. So share with us a little bit about what you do on your site for these various topics and, fire prevention and other stuff.
Every year in October, every year I do 3 fire prevention webinars. October is General Fire Safety. And for those of you that know it, October is National Fire Prevention Month. So that fits right in. But I do general fire safety. And the reason I start in October, because that's the start of the holiday season, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the weather's starting to turn cold. And there's more house fires in the winter because it's cold outside. People are burning stuff. It's just that simple. So October is general fire safety that you can take with you all year round. November, which is the one coming up. No, I just did that one. Nope, you missed it. November is kitchen fire safety. The number one reason for most fires are kitchen fires. And guess what day of the year has the most kitchen fires of all year?
Thanksgiving, I imagine.
Boom, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Now, the upcoming one, which is on I think it's the 11th of December, is holiday fire safety. And that one's about, yes, it's the 11th. That's holiday fire safety, Christmas trees, cords, candles, fireplaces, pets. Cover a lot of stuff there that is pretty relevant to the cold weather, preventing fires from happening during the cold weather. And when the house is full of your little rugrats running around and people carrying stuff and candles in the windows, and how to make your house safe, how to keep your house safe so there's nothing happening except having fun.
Yeah. So, with cold weather, you're right, comes all those, especially around the holidays. And I mean, I remember watching movies when I was younger, when the Christmas trees, people used to actually burn candles on them for lights. And I mean, that would be a safety nightmare. But do you ever talk or cover anything about, I imagine you do talk about the fireplaces, but what about the outdoor fire pits and the gas fire pits people use outdoors? Does that come up in your
Basically, one of the things that comes up the most, you have to realize most fire pits were built, when they were built, ideally the construction of the pit was built in such a way to make it fire safe.
Yeah.
Now, the thing to keep about catching fire, just keep this rule in mind: 1 foot and 3 feet. Anything that's going to burn, you want 3 feet away from your fire pit. You want 3 feet away from your fireplace. You want 3 feet away from that radiant space heater you have sitting on the floor. Okay. Candles and stuff up in the windows, you want to keep them at least a foot away from your curtains or anything that might come in contact with them that'll be flammable. So those are the basic things to think about. So yeah, just outdoor fire pits, you just don't have, a bunch of flammables laying around. I mean, most outdoor fire pits, unless they're wood burning, most of them are gas nowadays that I've seen.
Yeah.
People turn on the propane, or they got the tank or the natural gas. So that can be easily turned off, not a problem. If it's a fire pit that you actually have wood burning, then you have to worry about the sparks and the embers. And ideally, you'll be paying attention to where they're going and making sure they're not landing someplace that will be not quite beneficial to you.
Do you ever hear or see much in the way of accidents with the gas burning outdoor pits?
Not really. I haven't heard of anything. That doesn't mean there hasn't been, but I've never heard of anything. I can only think of people wanting to do some strange things like, okay, well, let's make some s'mores. Got it.
Yeah.
Feel good. That'd be good. You still have to be safe and make sure you don't burn your house or your children.
Yeah.
And for those of you that haven't done that, sugar gets very hot.
Sure.
When you're melting that chocolate or that marshmallow and you think you're going to grab it, it's going to give you at least a second-degree burn if you're not very careful. That's why you have the graham cracker to squeeze around it. It's just like having a mitten. That's what it's all about. It really is. So it's just a matter of, don't stick your hand in the fire. Don't stick your hand in there and see how hot it is, because it's going to be hot.
Yeah, I have to laugh at my wife because she enjoys we have a gas burning one, and she enjoys sitting around it in the cool weather, and she likes to make s'mores. So, So yeah, we're always careful about it, but I was just wondering if you heard of very many instances of people with the gas burning ones having too many problems.
I haven't heard of any anecdotal information. I mean, we can hypothesize a lot of things. Somebody
Yeah.
walking by and accidentally tripping over someone or something into it and things like that. But, those things don't usually make the news unless they're really horrific.
Now I know you mentioned December 11th being holiday fire safety for the holidays, and people can actually find more information at holidayfireprevention.com. But do you have any other little tips that you can share with the holidays coming up?
Well, first I mentioned your 3-foot rule. Anything that can burn, you want to keep a minimum of 3 feet away from anything that can catch it on fire. Okay, that's just that pretty simple. If you got that nice big fireplace and you've got the logs just blasting out of there, don't put your Christmas tree right up next to it, because that's going to dry that tree out a lot faster. You want to keep the tree away. You want to if you have a natural tree, you want to keep it watered.
Yeah.
So here's what I do: is when I had my kids, I have my my tree captain. I assign duties to people, and the tree captain, her job was to check the tree every other day for the water. How much water was in it? If there wasn't enough water, her job was to get the water in it. You got a sprayer, you can spray the tree. Now, there's some pros and cons to that whole thing. If you have electric lights on the tree, you understand that. If you have an aluminum tree, don't worry about it catching on fire. It usually won't. But then you have to worry about the electrical issues.
Yeah, so it always seems like with the holidays, everybody's so focused on doing things and trying to enjoy the holidays that it can be pretty easy to forget some of these simple things that can prevent a disaster in your home, especially like you said, with the extra heat that we use, the furnaces, the fireplaces, and everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And especially kitchen, I'll bring it up. I'll be mentioning kitchen safety in the December issue, but the thing about kitchens is the number one reason for kitchen fires are unattended cooking. Somebody walking away from the kitchen to go do something else, whatever. Something got too hot, it caught on fire. And by the time they got back to it, it was burning. So that's what I call the kitchen captain. I always have a kitchen captain who's in there to pay attention. What's cooking? What's on fire? What's not on fire? What's burning? What have you? Are you smelling smoke? Keep the little hands away from the stove. I'll have a 3-foot barrier. I call it a barrier, a no kid zone, a 3-foot no kid zone from your stove. Because, little kids are nosy. They want to know what that handle is up there. And the last thing we want is some little 2 or 3-year-old to grab that handle and pull it down on them with something boiling or burning in it, or grease or oil. That'd be very bad.
Yeah. So moving into, or I should say outside the holidays, just in general, what are some of the steps that people can take, whether it's veterans, parents, community leaders? What are some of the steps that they can take to emphasize preparedness and non-fear-based type of training and information?
Well, I always say start at home. That's where I'm always into. Start with your family first. Have the conversation with them. Say, here's what we're going to do. We know that we live in an area that has X type of hazard. It could be a hurricane, it could be tornadoes, it could be winter storms, power outages, volcanoes, earthquakes. And because I love you, children, I want you to be able to survive these. You got to come with the heart and let them know that we're going to be finding a way to prevent anything from happening to us. Start at home. And that's why I start with the fire safety. Start at home. And if you want to start looking in your community, every city, well, maybe not every city, but most counties have what we call an Office of Emergency Management. So you could go into Uncle Google or Auntie Yahoo or whoever and type in the name of your city or the name of your county and the term Office of Emergency Management, and something will pop up. Now, if you live somewhere where nothing like that exists, talk to your fire department.
Right.
They would know where to go. You have a local American Red Cross, talk to them.
Yeah. So, or if they want a more personal touch, they could always get a hold of you at emergencyactionplanning.com as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I have a wealth of information I freely
Yeah.
give away to people to help them out. And of course, obviously, I got to keep my lights on too. So I also
Sure.
have packages of consultation training packages to help families build a cohesive plan that they'll remember and they'll keep for the rest of their life.
And just to remind our audience too that, you post some of these webinars on your website as well that people can go there to see. Well,
Absolutely.
Daniel, I mean, it sounds like that you really, really have a genuine concern for this type of information and to share with people and teach them how to be safe. So I want to just ask you before we close the show, if there was a particular message that you would like to share with the audience, what would it be?
Well, excuse me. Well, my particular message, and I'm going to be speaking to either parents or business owners now, is you want to leave a legacy. As you can tell, I probably have more days behind me than I have in front of me now.
Yeah.
My children will be here long after I'm gone. If you're a business owner, will your family be inheriting your business? Ideally, we want to build a legacy of protection around them one way or another. That way, if and when something happens, and something will. I mean, we live in a world now where things are coming at us left and right. It's like standing on a 2x4 and someone's throwing turd balls at us all day long.
Yeah.
Trying to duck them. Well, we just got to learn how to grab that paddle and knock them out of the way. And that's part of the preparedness process for both families and businesses. So that's what I want to say. Do something today, something small to be prepared. It can be just push the button on your fire alarm, your smoke detector, and make sure it's working. Check your fire extinguishers if you have them and make sure they're still charged up.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner and you have a comprehensive disaster plan, check it out and see how old it is. And when was the last time you actually had a fire drill in your business? Things like that. There's little steps. Just take little steps and they'll get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it sounds like good advice. I know here in our house, we just recently changed all the batteries in our fire alarms on the ceilings. And it's funny, I've lived in my current home for a number of years, and I just actually checked the fire extinguisher not too long ago. It was still charged. And there's one other thing I did. I don't know whether you would know this more than I, but I didn't think about it till recently, but my dishwasher had a filter in the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling my wife, I said, my gosh, we've never really checked that thing. And I finally, pulled it out one day and of course had to clean it all out and everything, just like your dryers,
Mm-hmm.
Have the lint filters that can cause fire but I wasn't thinking about my dishwasher. So, talking with you kind of makes all this stuff pop into my head, little things that we just don't think about on a constant basis.
Well, that's just it. A lot of us really just don't think about it because we've never had a real reason to. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
It's what I call the preparation paradox. If you've never had something happen to you in your life that injured you or caused you harm, then you're not going to think about that happening regularly. I got it.
Yeah.
If you have had something happen and you've prepared for it, but that was 10 years ago, you might not be prepared as much now as you thought you were because that was 10 years ago. So I'm going to ask you a question here. How old is that fire extinguisher you have?
Actually, that one's about 5 years old.
Okay, so it's getting right to the edge where you would want to go to a fire extinguisher service provider and swap it out for a new one, because a lot of people don't know this. Fire extinguisher has a powder in it.
Yeah.
And over time it settles. And especially the one in your car, there's been historical reference of people trying to use your extinguisher, can't use it because the powder is compacted so much.
Yeah.
That it's not coming out. So like my extinguishers, every 5 years, I go out to the fire extinguisher service provider. I give them my old one. I pay $15 or $20. I get a new one.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did check it for to see if it was still charged, but I didn't think of that. So I've learned something here tonight myself too. See?
Well, it's better to be safe than sorry, you know.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, Daniel, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on the show and share with us what you're doing. And folks, there's the website, emergencyactionplanning.com. There's also the www.talkwithdaniel.com. So you can check those out and find out more information, see what he's doing. And if you're interested, see if there's something he can do to help you and your family prepare to be safe in most circumstances. So Daniel, again, thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing. And we appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
Well, absolutely my pleasure there, Paul. And thank you for having me here with you. And I'm just looking forward to thinking that hopefully I'm helping a lot of families out there with this interview.
Yeah, I hope so too. But we really appreciate the information you're sharing.
All right. Take care.
So for our audience out there, again, we want to thank Daniel for coming out to see us. And I want to share something with you here. I've often mentioned on the show that, and if you watch the show on a regular basis, you'll see that we always have a lot more male veterans than we do female veterans, although I'm always looking for some interesting female veterans to have on the show. So if you're out there watching, drop us a line. But you can learn more. I found this VFW's got extensive resources up right now on their website for female veterans. So take a look at it, vfw.org, advocacy/women veterans. They've got a whole page full of information and things for female veterans, things that you may not have thought of. So whether you're a female veteran yourself, a family member, or someone, a friend of a female veteran, take a look at it because there may be something there that these veterans can use. We want to thank our audience for taking the time to join us this evening. We appreciate your participation in our show. And remember, you've been watching the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner on the new streaming network.com. And veterans, as always, we want to thank you for your service. And family members, thank you for the support that you provide those veterans. So thank you. We hope to see you on our next show.
All right. Thank you, folks. You all take care.